pathogens.
And now, as we speak, Chinese President Xi Jinping is addressing the G20 Health Summit.
The most serious pandemic in the century is still wreaking havoc. To clinch an early victory against COVID-19 and restore economic growth remains the top priority for the international community. Here, I want to make 5 points on what we need to do. First, we must put people and their lives first. To completely defeat the virus, we must demonstrate a great sense of political responsibility and courage, make extraordinary responses to an extraordinary challenge, and truly respect the value and dignity of every human life. Meanwhile, it is also important to minimize the potential impact on people's lives and maintain general order in our society. We must follow science-based policies and ensure a coordinated and systemic response. We should coordinate. Dear colleagues, the past year and more have seen repeated resurgence and frequent mutations of the coronavirus. The most serious pandemic in the century is still wreaking havoc. To clinch an early victory against COVID-19 and restore economic growth remains the top priority for the international community. Here, I want to make 5 points on what we need to do. First, we must put people and their lives first. To completely defeat the virus, we must demonstrate a great sense of political responsibility and courage, make extraordinary responses to an extraordinary challenge, and truly respect the value and dignity of every human life. Meanwhile, it is also important to minimize the potential impact on people's life and maintain general order in our society. Second, we must follow science-based policies and ensure a coordinated and systemic response. We should coordinate pharmacological and non-pharmacological interventions, balance targeted routine COVID-19 protocols and emergency measures, and ensure both epidemic control and socio-economic development. G20 members need to adopt responsible macroeconomic policies, keep the global industrial and supply chains safe and smooth, and give continued support to developing countries. Third, we must stick together and promote solidarity and cooperation. We, humanity, rise and fall together with a shared future. We must tide over this trying time together and firmly reject any attempt to politicize, label, or stigmatize the virus. Political manipulation would not serve COVID-19 response on the domestic front. It will only disrupt international cooperation against the virus and bring greater harm to people around the world. Fourth, we must uphold fairness and equity as we strive to close the immunization gap. Today, the problem of uneven vaccination has become more acute. It is imperative for us to reject vaccine nationalism and make vaccines more accessible and affordable in developing countries. Major countries need to take up the responsibility to provide more vaccines to developing countries in urgent need. Fifth, we must address both the symptoms and root causes as we improve the governance system. It is important that we enhance our capacity of monitoring, early warning, and emergency response, our capacity of treatment of major pandemics, of contingency reserve and logistics, of fighting disinformation, and of providing support to developing countries. It is important that we strengthen and leverage the role of the UN and the WHO, and uphold the spirit of extensive consultation, joint contribution, and shared benefits in COVID-19 response. In continued support for global solidarity against COVID-19, I wish to announce the following. China will provide an additional $3 billion in international aid over the next 3 years to support COVID-19 response and economic and social recovery in other developing countries. Having already supplied 300 million doses of vaccines to the world, China will provide still more vaccines to the best of its ability. China supports its vaccine companies in transferring technologies to other developing countries and carrying out joint production with them. Having announced support for waiving intellectual property rights on COVID-19 vaccines, China also supports the WTO and other international institutions in making an early decision on this matter. China proposes setting up an international forum on vaccine cooperation for vaccine developing and producing countries, companies, and other stakeholders to explore ways of promoting fair and equitable distribution of vaccines around the world. Let us join hands and stand together to build a global community of health for all, and work for a healthier and brighter future for humanity. Thank you.
Well, as we heard just there, Chinese President Xi Jinping was addressing the G20 delegates on this major health crisis that the world is fighting right now. And he talked about China's measures to fight this pandemic, as well as renewed the Chinese commitment for global cooperation in the fight against COVID-19. And now let's get the latest from our correspondent, Ryan Thompson. He's live for us from Frankfurt. Hi there, Tom. Ryan, so the summit is underway right now. Tell us more about the discussions there from world leaders.
Yeah, well, we just watched it there live. The Chinese president, like many world leaders who have taken the stage, really laying their cards on the table because this summit is so much focused not just on health policy, but really on preventing another coronavirus crisis and making sure this doesn't happen again. Quite bold announcements from the Chinese President Xi Jinping. He kind of echoed similar comments made just before him by the Canadian President Justin Trudeau. Just a little bit before that, we saw Mario Draghi, who's the host of this event, alongside the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen. There are a number of health principles that these leaders are looking to lay their cards on the table and go through, notably improving healthcare systems worldwide, not just in the developing countries, to ensure that a type of crisis like this cannot happen again. But of course, there are many countries, notably India and parts of Africa, who are lagging behind the vaccination efforts that we're seeing in Europe and North America and China. And so to make sure that these countries also have a path out of the pandemic, and that interesting comments by the Chinese president there, that there is a need for these countries to really have their economic recovery be looked after as well.
Yeah, all right. Thank you so much, our Ryan Thompson, for us from Frankfurt. And that'll do it for this hour's The World Today. I'm Wang Mengmang.